Hey everyone, let's be honest. Dating these days, it could be a bit of a whirlwind. It's a whole
Yeah,
different world than what our parents had to deal with.
absolutely.
But hey, that's what we're here for, right? This deep dive, we're going to be looking at the work of Matthew Hussey.
Okay.
He's a dating coach, a relationship expert. You might know him from his book, Get the Guy,
Yeah, very
or
popular.
his YouTube channel, which is really great.
He's fantastic at really breaking down these really complicated relationship dynamics
Yes.
into things that you can actually use.
Exactly. And I think one of the things that stood out to me in getting ready for this deep dive is that
Yeah.
he talks about attraction as not just being this one thing,
Yeah,
not just this spark.
right.
He identifies these four distinct stages of attraction.
I like that it's not just, oh,
Yeah.
it just happens.
Magic.
Yeah,
It's not magic.
it's a process.
There's a process.
Yeah, and he talks about how, back in the day, maybe our parents, they married someone from their town or whatever.
Right.
But now we have so many choices.
Yeah.
And dating apps have just completely changed the game.
Totally.
You're trying to stand out
On a tiny little screen.
on a little tiny screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so hard.
It's tough.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting how much we've traded these organic meetings for these curated online profiles.
And then you add social media on top of
Yeah.
that, where
Well,
everyone's trying to show their perfect lives.
Right. It's no wonder everyone feels kind of overwhelmed with it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's break down these four stages.
Yeah.
Stage one is chemistry.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But he says it's more than just looks.
Yeah, exactly. He goes beyond that superficial level and talks about
Okay.
things like how someone moves, how they smile,
Okay.
even those little micro expressions that we may not even realize we're picking up on.
Wow.
And he argues that these things are actually way more impactful in person
Really?
than they are online. When you're just seeing a static photo,
So it's more than just
you're missing a lot.
swiping.
Yeah, a lot of info.
Okay, so stage two.
Stage 2 is perceived value.
Okay.
And this is how attractive someone appears,
Okay.
based on their personality, their lifestyle, what they bring to the table, basically.
So it's the whole picture.
The whole package deal.
Got it. Okay.
But here's where it gets interesting. So perceived value can actually go down
What?
without this next stage, which is perceived challenge.
Now hold on. Before we go any further,
Yeah.
I think we need to clarify that term.
Yeah.
Because perceived challenge, I can see it that can be misinterpreted.
For sure, he's not talking about playing games or being manipulative.
Okay.
It's really about having standards,
Yes.
knowing what you're worth, not just accepting anything.
Right.
So it's about understanding that when you have a strong sense of self,
Mm-hmm.
when you're not afraid to walk away if something's not right for you,
Right.
that actually increases your value.
I like that. I think he even says when someone realizes that your value has a price, they respect and value you more.
It's so true.
It's not about playing hard to get. It's about self-respect.
Absolutely. And then that leads us to that final stage,
Okay.
which is connection.
Okay.
And this is where you have that mutual investment, that deeper understanding, and that forms the basis for a real lasting relationship.
So we have a chemistry, perceived value, perceived challenge, and connection.
Yep.
I love that. 4 stages.
It really changes how we think about attraction.
Yes. But it still seems like even with that framework,
Uh-huh.
people make some common mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of those pitfalls?
I think a big one is overvaluing chemistry.
Okay.
We've all been there where we mistake that initial spark
Yeah.
for actual compatibility.
Right.
And sometimes we might even ignore some red flags because of that.
It's easy to get swept up in the excitement, especially with apps and how fast everything moves.
Right, and that's what Hussey warns against. He says chemistry is great, but it's not enough to actually have a successful long-term relationship.
You can't just build a house on a shaky foundation.
Exactly.
So what's another mistake that people make?
Another one is projection.
Projection.
Yeah, this is where we kind of build someone up in our minds based on very limited information.
Okay.
So, a couple fun dates, a few laughs, and suddenly we've created this
This ideal.
this perfect version of them in our heads.
We're filling in the blanks
Totally. We're filling in the blanks with what we hope they'll be.
instead of who they actually are.
Exactly. And so Hussey says, take your time, really observe someone
Right.
in different situations before you go making any big decisions.
Okay.
See how they treat other people, how they handle stress, and if their values actually align with yours.
Yeah. Step back and see the big picture.
Absolutely.
What else? What other pitfalls?
Another common mistake is not maintaining your own value in a relationship.
Okay.
So Giving too much too soon without that same effort back can lead to you being taken for granted.
Yeah, it's about self-respect.
Absolutely.
Knowing that you deserve to be with someone who values you.
Exactly, and appreciates your effort.
So on the other side of that coin,
Mm-hmm.
are there some good tips that Hussey has that people can put into practice?
Yeah, so he has this really interesting concept he calls the modern handkerchief.
I love that name, the modern handkerchief. Tell me more.
Okay, so think about those old movies
Okay.
where a woman would like drop her handkerchief
Right.
as a way to signal interest to a guy.
I get it. It's like subtle.
It's a subtle way to kind of initiate something.
Without being too forward.
Exactly.
But how does that translate to today?
So Hussey's adapted it.
Okay.
Some examples are like asking someone to watch your jacket,
Yeah.
or recommending a dish at a restaurant, or
Alright.
just striking up a conversation about something you both notice.
I like it.
They're all very low-pressure ways to start talking to someone.
Especially for people who are maybe a little shy.
Exactly. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
Right. Creates these organic moments for connection.
It's brilliant.
And then another tip he has is the two-hit theory.
Okay, I've heard of this.
Yeah.
Something about confidence.
Yeah, so this is a great tip for boosting your confidence and easing any kind of social anxiety.
Okay.
The idea is initiate 2 small, low-stakes conversations
Okay.
with different people at like an event or party
Huh?
before approaching the person you're actually interested in.
I see. So you're warming up?
It's like a warm-up. You're getting in the flow.
Yeah, like practice swings.
Yeah, and then by the time you get to the person you actually want to talk to,
Yeah.
you're more relaxed, you're more confident,
You're ready.
you're ready to go.
I love that.
It takes the pressure off, and you're more likely to just be yourself.
I like it. These are good tips.
They're all about mindset and confidence.
Yeah. And speaking of confidence,
Uh-huh.
what about long-term relationships?
Yeah.
How do we keep the spark alive? Like prevent ourselves from falling into those routines?
Yeah. Right, because then it leads to boredom and,
Yeah, and less desire.
Exactly.
So what does Hussey say about that?
So he has this really insightful concept. It's
Okay.
called the space between.
Okay.
And this is the idea that desire really thrives on mystery,
Okay.
spontaneity, that push and pull that keeps things interesting.
So it's like as a relationship progresses,
Yeah.
it's so easy to just get comfortable and then let that space disappear.
Right, exactly. And that's when things can get a little stale.
Okay.
So it's really about maintaining a sense of individuality
Okay.
within the relationship,
Yeah.
having your own passions.
Your own interests, your own pursuits.
Yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup.
I love that.
You need to be fulfilled as an individual to actually bring that excitement back into the relationship.
Okay. And that also prevents you from becoming too dependent on your partner for your own happiness,
Exactly.
which I can imagine can be a slippery slope.
Totally.
When you're both engaged in your own lives,
Mm.
you have more to bring back to the relationship.
Yeah, it's like that element of discovery is still alive.
I like
You're still learning new things about each other, even after all this time.
So it's not just hobbies and interests, it's intellectual and emotional space, too.
Exactly.
Like not being afraid to challenge each other, having healthy debates,
Yes. Keeping the conversation flowing.
prevent it from getting stagnant.
Absolutely.
You know, it's funny how Hussey doesn't shy away from the realities of modern dating.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what makes him so refreshing.
He keeps it real.
He keeps it real. He understands the pressures we face.
Like with his social media.
Yeah, social media, hookup culture,
It's a different world out there.
it really is. But I also appreciate that he gives practical advice
Oh, for sure.
for navigating those challenges. Like one thing he says is, be mindful of your energy.
Yeah. Your energy is precious.
Yes.
You don't want to waste it.
Exactly. And it's so easy to get caught up.
Especially with apps.
Yeah, the apps, the quantity of matches.
The more the better.
Right. But actually he's saying, no, you need to be more selective
You need to be choosy.
and not waste your time on connections that don't align with your values.
Exactly. And he talks about defining your non-negotiables.
Your non-negotiables, like those core values, those essential qualities.
The things you're absolutely not willing to budge on.
It's like a filter
Yes.
to help you weed out the incompatible matches,
Exactly.
like a relationship compass
I like that.
to guide you through the maze of dating.
I love that.
But I wonder, how do we balance that selectiveness
Mm-hmm.
with being open and vulnerable enough to let a real connection in?
Yeah, it's a delicate balance.
How do we do that?
Well, Hussey believes that vulnerability is key
Okay.
to actually building those deep connections.
I can see how that can seem a little scary.
Oh, yeah, especially at the
when
beginning.
you're trying to put your best foot forward.
Right, you don't want to get hurt.
Right, exactly.
But he says real connection comes from letting yourself be seen,
Okay.
flaws and all, and that takes trust.
Yeah, you have to trust the other person
You have
to
to.
let them in that much.
Let them see the real you,
The real you.
not just the perfect version you present to the world.
Right, and I imagine that kind of vulnerability can actually be attractive
Totally.
because it shows self-awareness.
It does.
It shows confidence.
It shows that you're comfortable being yourself.
Right, exactly.
And that's magnetic.
It is, and one thing I really like about Hussey's approach is he doesn't just focus on the external stuff.
Yeah,
He realizes that it's the internal work that matters.
absolutely. Lasting love starts from within.
Yes, and he really emphasizes working on yourself.
Yeah, self-love.
Self-acceptance, self-confidence,
It all starts with you.
because you can't expect someone to love you if you don't love yourself.
Exactly.
And that's about recognizing your worth.
Treating yourself with kindness?
And compassion.
Yes, because that's how you'll attract others who will do the same.
And that leads to another thing he talks about,
What's that?
taking action.
Oh, that's huge.
It's not enough to just read books or listen to podcasts.
You have to actually do something.
You got to get out there and apply what you're learning.
Get out of your comfort zone. Take some risks.
Right, because that's where the growth happens.
Exactly. You got to be open to learning from your experiences.
The good and the bad.
All of it. The rejection,
heartbreaks.
those can teach you a lot.
They do. They teach you what you want.
They show you what you don't want.
Right, exactly.
And that's valuable information.
It is. And you know what I really appreciate about his message?
What's that?
He gives people hope.
Yeah, he does.
He shows them that even in today's world, with how complex dating is,
It's tough out there.
it is tough.
It is.
You can still find love
You can.
and build those fulfilling relationships.
Yeah. It's not a fairy tale.
It's not. It's about understanding how it all works
How attraction works, how connection works.
and making choices that lead you towards those relationships.
And he reminds us that love's not a passive experience.
It's not. It's something you create.
You create it through your actions,
Through your choices.
your willingness to be open and vulnerable.
Yes. It's taking ownership
Absolutely.
of your love life
Right.
and knowing that you deserve happiness.
And you deserve to be loved.
Yes. And it's a journey.
It's a journey, not a destination.
I love that.
Enjoy the process, the ups and downs,
Right. It's all part of it.
all of it, the twists and turns, the good, the bad.
It shapes you.
It makes you who you are.
It's about finding that person who you're compatible with,
Yeah.
who you respect,
Who challenges you,
who challenges you to grow,
who you can build a life with.
who makes the journey more meaningful.
Exactly. And one of the things I really appreciate
Yeah.
about his work is that he doesn't shy away from the fact that modern dating is hard.
It is hard.
It's complex, there's pressures,
Totally.
and he offers real advice for dealing with that.
So what's one piece of advice that he gives?
He talks about being mindful of your energy and who you're investing it in,
Right. Because it's so easy to get swept up.
especially with dating apps.
With the apps, yeah, the endless
You
possibilities.
feel like you have to swipe on everyone.
Right, but he's saying be more selective
Exactly.
on connections that don't align with what you're looking for.
Your values.
Yeah, your values, your goals.
It's about quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Right. So it's like he's saying, define your non-negotiables.
Those core values, those things you're not willing to budge on.
Yeah. And use those as a filter
Yes.
to weed out the incompatible matches.
It's like a roadmap for your love life.
I love that. Okay. But how do we balance being selective with being open enough to let someone in?
It's a tough one.
It is tough.
You don't want to get hurt,
Right.
but you also don't want to close yourself off
To love.
to love.
Exactly.
So Hussey believes that vulnerability is key
Okay.
to forming those deep connections
I get it. It can seem scary at first. Oh, yeah. Especially in the beginning.
because you're putting your best foot forward.
Right. You don't want to scare anyone off.
Right. You don't want to get hurt.
Exactly. But he says real connection comes from letting yourself be seen.
Okay, warts and all,
Warts and all, the good, the bad, all of it.
but that takes trust.
You have to trust the other person.
To let them see that side of you,
To let them see the real you.
not just the curated version you present to the world.
Exactly. You have to be vulnerable.
And I imagine that kind of vulnerability can actually be attractive
Oh, yeah.
because it shows self-awareness.
It does.
It shows confidence.
It shows you're comfortable in your own skin.
Exactly.
And that's magnetic.
It is. And one thing I really appreciate about Hussey's approach is that he doesn't just focus on the external stuff.
Uh-huh.
He recognizes that it's the internal work that matters.
It all starts with you.
Yeah. He emphasizes self-love.
Self-acceptance.
Self-kindness.
Building that strong foundation within yourself.
Because you can't expect someone to love you if you don't love yourself first.
Exactly. It's about recognizing your worth.
Treating yourself with kindness.
Compassion.
Yes, and then
Yeah.
you attract people who will treat you the same way.
Absolutely.
It all starts with you.
It does.
Which leads to another thing that Hussey talks about.
Okay, what's that?
Taking action.
That's huge.
It's not enough to just read books or listen to podcasts.
You got to do something with that information.
Get out there.
Apply it.
Apply it to your life.
Step out of your comfort zone. Take some risks.
Because that's how you grow.
Exactly. And be open to learning from those experiences.
The good, the bad.
The rejections, the heartbreaks, they all teach you something.
And you know what I really appreciate about Hussey's message?
What's that?
It's that he gives people hope.
Yeah.
Even with how complicated dating is these days.
He gets it.
He gets it. He shows people that they can still find love
Absolutely.
and build these meaningful relationships.
It's not a fairy tale.
It's not. It's about understanding the dynamics,
Of attraction, of connection.
making choices that lead you towards those fulfilling relationships.
And I think he does a great job of reminding us
Of what?
that love is not a passive experience.
It's not. You have to create it.
Yeah, through your actions.
Through your choices,
Your willingness to be open.
your willingness to be vulnerable,
To put yourself out there.
and that's about taking ownership.
Of your love life.
Knowing that you deserve to be happy.
You deserve to be loved.
Yes, and it's a journey.
It's a journey, not a
I
destination.
love that.
Enjoy the process.
The ups, the downs,
The twists and turns.
it all makes you who you are.
It shapes you.
It really does.
It's about finding that person
Yeah.
you're compatible with.
Who you respect
Who challenges you.
to grow.
Yeah.
Who you can build a life with.
Who makes the journey more meaningful.
Absolutely. And you know what I appreciate?
What's that?
Is how he really acknowledges that modern dating is hard.
It's not easy.
It's not easy.
It's complex. There's pressures.
There are.
So many factors.
And he gives you practical advice for dealing with that.
Yeah, he doesn't just tell you to go find love.
He gives you tools.
He gives you the steps.
So what's one piece of advice that he gives?
So one thing he talks about is being mindful of your energy
Yeah.
and who you're investing it in.
Right, because it's so easy to get swept up.
Especially with dating apps.
Yeah, the apps, it's like this endless buffet of options.
Right, you can swipe forever.
But he says be more selective.
Be intentional.
Don't waste your time on connections that don't align with your values.
Exactly. Define those non-negotiables.
Those core values, the essential qualities.
And use those as a filter
Yes.
to weed out the incompatible matches.
I love that.
It's like a roadmap for your love life.
Roadmap, a compass, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly.
It helps you stay on track.
Keeps you focused.
But I'm curious, how do we balance being selective with being open enough to actually let someone in?
It's a delicate balance.
It is.
You don't want to get hurt,
Right.
but you also don't want to close yourself off from love.
Right. How do we find that sweet spot?
So Hussey believes that vulnerability is key.
Vulnerability.
Forming deep, lasting connections.
I can see how that could be scary.
Especially in the beginning,
When you're putting your best foot forward,
you want to make a good impression.
yeah, you don't want to scare anyone off.
Right. And you don't want to get hurt.
But you say you have to be vulnerable.
You do. Real connection comes from letting yourself be seen.
The real you.
The real you, flaws and all.
That takes a lot of trust
It does. You have to trust the other person
to let them see that side of you,
to let them see the real you.
not just the curated version you present to the world.
Exactly. You have to be willing to let your guard down.
Okay, and I can see how that vulnerability can actually be attractive
Oh, absolutely.
because it shows self-awareness.
It does.
It shows confidence.
It shows you're comfortable in your own skin.
Exactly.
And that's magnetic.
It really is.
Yeah, it really is. And thinking about what we were discussing with the space between.
Right.
I'm curious, like, how do we create that practically?
Yeah,
Especially when you're in a long-term relationship, things get so comfortable, you know?
they do. It's easy to fall into those routines.
Yeah, how do we prevent that from becoming complacency?
That's a great question, and I think it's something a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
And Hussey's advice is really to focus on maintaining that sense of individuality
Okay.
within the relationship.
Not creating distance.
No.
Not being emotionally unavailable.
Right. But making sure that you're both still growing.
Yeah, having your own things going on.
Your own passions, your own interests.
Yeah, your own pursuits. It's like you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You have to be fulfilled yourself to bring that positive energy back to the relationship.
I love that analogy.
And it prevents you from being too dependent on your partner for your own happiness.
Right. Yeah. Which I can imagine is not a good dynamic.
No, not at all.
So when you're both engaged in your own lives, You're more interesting to each other.
Exactly. It keeps that spark alive.
Yeah, and you're always learning new things about each other.
Even after years together.
Okay, so it's not just hobbies and interests. It's intellectual and emotional space, too.
Yes, absolutely. Challenging each other's thoughts.
Having those debates.
Keeping the conversation flowing.
Preventing that stagnation.
You got it.
It's so refreshing how Hussey doesn't try to sugarcoat the realities of dating.
Oh, yeah. He's very real about it.
He is. He understands the pressures we face.
Especially with social media.
Social media, hookup culture.
Yeah, it can be really tough out there.
It really can. But I like that he gives you practical advice.
Yeah, he doesn't just leave you hanging.
No, he gives you the tools.
So one thing he talks about is being really mindful of your energy and who you choose to invest it in.
Yeah, because it's so easy to get caught up with the quantity of options.
The apps make it so easy to just keep swiping and swiping.
But he says be selective.
Be intentional.
Define your non-negotiables.
What are those things that you're absolutely not willing to budge on?
Yeah, your core values, your essential qualities.
And use those as a filter.
I like that.
To weed out the incompatible matches.
It's like that relationship roadmap or compass that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly.
It helps you stay on track.
Keeps you focused on what you really want.
But how do we balance being selective with being open to love?
Right, you don't want to close yourself off.
No, but you also don't want to get hurt.
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah, how do we do that?
Well, Hussey believes that vulnerability is key.
Vulnerability?
Forming those deep, meaningful connections.
But that can be scary.
Especially in the beginning when you're trying to make a good impression.
Yeah, you don't want to scare anyone off.
Exactly. But he says real connection comes from letting yourself be seen.
Flaws and all.
Flaws and all. You have to trust the other person enough to let them see the real you.
And that's not always easy.
It's not, but it's worth it.
So I think he's saying that you have to be willing to risk getting hurt.
You do, because the rewards of that deep connection are so much greater than the risk.
Okay, so you're saying it's worth the risk.
Absolutely, because even the rejections, the heartbreaks, those teach you something.
Yeah.
They help you grow.
It's about reframing those experiences as opportunities to learn.
Exactly, not as failures.
Not as failures, because every relationship,
even the ones that end, they serve a purpose.
they shape us.
They teach us what we want, what we don't want.
And ultimately guide us towards the love that we're meant to find.
They do, so sometimes that means letting go.
Of what's no longer serving us.
Exactly, even if it's painful.
Because staying in a relationship that's not right for you is not doing anyone any favors.
And Hussey reminds us that being single is not a failure.
Okay.
It's an opportunity to focus on yourself, to grow.
To become the best version of yourself.
Exactly. So you can attract the kind of love you deserve.
Okay, so it's about shifting from a place of neediness.
To a place of abundance.
Where you're coming to the relationship.
From a place of strength.
And self-love.
Exactly.
And that's what I find so empowering about Hussey's work.
It's about taking control of your love life.
Yeah, he gives you the tools.
The mindset.
To create these fulfilling relationships.
When he doesn't forget about the importance of personal growth.
Yeah, it's a journey.
It's not just about finding someone.
It's about becoming the best version of yourself along the way.
Exactly. And sometimes the journey is just as important as the destination.
You know, it's funny how much we talk about the destination.
Yeah.
But the journey is where all the growth happens.
The journey is where the magic is.
I love that, listening to you talk about Hussey's insights, it's hard not to feel inspired.
It is inspiring. He has such a fresh perspective.
He does. Grounded in reality.
But also full of hope and possibility.
He reminds us that love is out there.
It is.
And we all deserve to experience it. One thing that I find really interesting is how he talks about being present in the moment. Especially when you're dating. It's so easy to get caught up in your head.
Oh, I know. Thinking about the future.
The future, the past, all the what ifs.
Yeah, and then you miss what's right in front of you.
Those little moments of connection, you're not fully present.
They're overthinking everything.
Analyzing, strategizing.
And you miss the beauty of just enjoying the moment.
So he's saying, shift your focus from the outcome.
To the experience.
And be present.
Be present with the person you're with.
Listen.
Engage in conversation.
Savor the connection.
Enjoy their company.
Regardless of whether or not it leads to something romantic.
Right, because when you're present, you're more attractive.
You come across as more authentic.
More confident, more genuine.
Yeah, and people are drawn to that.
They can sense it.
And, that reminds me of something else that Hussey emphasizes.
What's that?
Love is not something that just happens to us.
Okay.
We create it.
We have the power.
We have the power and the responsibility.
To cultivate it, to nurture it.
Love is a verb.
It's not just a noun.
You got to put in the effort.
Make conscious choices.
And build the kind of relationship that you want.
And that's something we should be excited about.
Oh.
Not intimidated by.
Because love is one of the most beautiful things in life.
It is.
And we all deserve to experience it.
We do.
It really is. And, I think what strikes me about Hussey's approach is that he combines this really practical side of dating, almost strategic, with a really deep understanding of the emotional and psychological aspects of it all.
Yeah, he doesn't just give you those, superficial tips.
Right. It's not just about the techniques.
No, it's about personal growth.
It is. It's about understanding yourself.
Yeah, looking inward.
Yeah.
Understanding your patterns, your beliefs.
To build those healthy, lasting connections.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that you're worthy of love.
Yeah.
And that you have the ability to attract it.
But it takes effort.
It does. It takes intentionality.
You have to challenge your own beliefs sometimes.
Those limiting beliefs.
The ones that are holding us back.
Exactly. And sometimes that means taking risks.
Right.
Putting yourself out there.
And being open to the possibility of getting hurt.
Yeah, you can't protect yourself from that completely.
You can't. But Hussey reminds us that love, it's not always easy.
No.
But it's worth it.
It is. The rewards are so much greater than the risks.
Yeah, and I think those risks teach us valuable lessons.
They do.
I mean, even the rejections.
The heartbreaks.
Yeah, they can teach you so much.
About yourself.
About what you want in a partner.
Exactly. It's all about reframing those experiences as opportunities for learning and growth.
Not as failures.
Not at all. Every relationship.
Even the ones that end.
Yeah, even the ones that don't last forever.
They serve a purpose.
They shape us.
They guide us.
Towards the love we're meant to find.
Yeah, and sometimes that means letting go of what's no longer serving us.
Even if it's hard.
Even if it's painful.
Because holding on to something that's not right isn't doing anyone any favors.
Right. And Hussey reminds us that being single is not a failure.
No, not at all.
It's an opportunity.
It is. It's a chance to focus on yourself.
To grow, to become the best version of you.
Exactly. And then you can attract the kind of love you deserve.
So it's about shifting from that place of neediness.
To a place of abundance.
Where you're coming to the relationship.
From a place of strength.
And self-love.
Absolutely.
It's funny how much emphasis is placed on finding the one.
Yeah, it's the end goal.
But really, the journey is just as important.
If not more important.
Yeah, and I think that's what I like about Hussey's work.
Yeah.
Is that he really focuses on that personal growth.
It's about becoming the best version of yourself.
Yeah, and realizing that you're worthy of love.
That you deserve it.
You do. Yeah. And that you have the power to create it.
It's not just something that happens to you.
You have to go after it.
Put in the effort.
Make conscious choices.
And be open to the possibilities.
Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive.
It has.
I don't know about you, but I feel like I have a whole new perspective on love and relationship.
Me too. Hussey's really good at breaking it down.
He is.
In a way that makes sense.
And it's practical.
You can actually use it.
And I think most importantly, he gives people hope.
Yeah, he does. He reminds us that love's out there.
It is, and we all deserve to experience it.
We do.
So to all our listeners out there, if you're feeling a little lost,
discouraged
in your own dating journey, just remember you're not alone.
You got this.
Keep learning, keep growing, keep putting yourself out there.
And never give up on love.
Because it's out there waiting for you.
It is.
And if you're looking for more guidance,
inspiration,
we highly recommend checking out Matthew Hussey's book, Get the Guy.
Yeah, and his YouTube channel is fantastic.
Lots of great content there. We'll have links to all of that in the show notes. That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time.